No car company in the history of the automobile has built more vehicles than Toyota. Over 300 million cars across 70 years, enough to hand every single American 4 cars each. And yet the man running that empire just stood in front of his own board and said something no Toyota executive has ever said out loud, that Toyota will not survive if nothing changes. Koji Sato wasn't talking about a rough quarter or lowering guidance for shareholders. This is a man from one of the most disciplined corporate cultures on the planet, naming an existential threat. And this isn't Toyota losing a race to somebody else. This is Toyota quietly tearing apart the exact system that made it the biggest car company on earth just to have a shot at still existing in 10 years. Stick around, because subscribe right now. What's happening inside Toyota's plants today is arguably the biggest shift in the entire auto industry, and almost nobody outside the company is talking about it. To actually understand why Toyota's own CEO is talking survival, you have to look past the cars and get into the machine underneath them. Back in 1948, an engineer named Taiichi Ohno built something called the Toyota Production System, a manufacturing philosophy that basically became the global Bible for efficient factories. The whole point was killing waste. If a step didn't add real value, it got cut, which is how the world got just-in-time manufacturing, parts showing up on the line the exact moment they're needed. For 40 straight years, that system was the gold standard, studied and copied by Ford, by Boeing, by Amazon. But here's the twist. The exact same machine that made Toyota unbeatable is now the thing slowing it down. The real danger Toyota's facing isn't one rival or even electric cars themselves. It's something called path dependency, basically getting boxed in by your own past decisions. In practical terms, that means roughly 40,000 suppliers, a huge number of them having spent decades perfecting parts for gas engines, pistons, fuel injectors, machined to insane precision. A normal combustion engine has over 1,000 moving parts. An electric drivetrain needs about 20. So this massive 30-year ecosystem of specialized shops and engineers Toyota built up is mostly dead weight in an electric future. And Toyota can't just cut these suppliers loose either. Whole regions of Japan depend on them economically. But every single day spent protecting that legacy network is a day not spent building what the market actually wants now. That web of decisions that used to be brilliant is now the main thing holding Toyota back. So what's Toyota's actual move here? Because Sato's statement wasn't him giving up. It was him declaring war on his own company from the inside. The first surprising move, Toyota stopped playing along with the idea that going fully electric right now is automatically the correct answer, and started pushing back with actual engineering data. Their position, which gets attacked constantly by electric vehicle purists but keeps getting backed up by real market numbers, is that this transition won't happen at the same speed everywhere, and it won't look identical in every country. In places where the power grid genuinely can't handle mass EV charging, a hybrid or a hydrogen vehicle isn't some consolation prize, it's the only thing that actually works. In places with shaky lithium supply chains, a car that doesn't fully depend on one giant battery pack isn't a step backward, it's a hedge against a risk that pure electric companies are quietly carrying, whether they admit it or not. This isn't Toyota making excuses, this is Toyota playing a completely different level of the game than its competitors are even set up to play. But the move that actually tells you whether Toyota is truly transforming or just slowly managing a decline comes down to solid-state batteries. A regular lithium-ion cell uses a liquid electrolyte, a fluid that carries lithium ions back and forth while charging. That liquid is flammable. It degrades over time, it caps how fast you can safely charge, and it demands a ton of thermal management, cooling, heating, sensors, just to keep the temperature in a safe zone. Think of it like a water pipe that can freeze in winter and burst in summer. You're spending huge amounts of engineering effort babysitting the conditions instead of squeezing out real performance. A solid-state battery swaps that fluid for a solid ceramic or polymer, so the pipe becomes a sealed duct that doesn't care about extreme temperatures, stays physically stable, and can push way more current in way less time. The theoretical energy density is roughly double the best lithium-ion chemistry available today. Charge times could drop from 40 minutes down to under 10, and all that heavy thermal management gear gets dramatically simpler. Toyota holds more solid-state battery patents than any company on the planet, more than CATL, more than Samsung, more than any university lab or government-funded program that's been chasing this for 20 years. That's not luck. Toyota started seriously investing in solid-state research in the early 2000s, before the iPhone existed, before Tesla had sold a single car. The real question underneath Sato's warning is whether all those patents can actually turn into a working factory line, because there's a massive gap between building one solid-state cell in a lab and building 10 million of them a year at a price that competes with the lithium-ion cells already pouring out of CATL's factories in China. Toyota says its first solid-state cars reach customers by 2027. Small volume, high price, basically proof it can be done commercially at all. Full-scale production is projected for 2030. Now, hold that timeline up against what's already happening on the other side. CATL, which supplies roughly 37% of every EV battery sold globally, isn't waiting around. Their condensed matter battery, a semi-solid cell that grabs some of solid-state's benefits without the manufacturing nightmare, is already in production, not in a lab, in actual factories going into real cars right now. BYD, which is simultaneously the world's biggest EV maker and its own battery supplier, has posted production numbers that Toyota's own manufacturing analysts described internally, direct quote from an industry briefing, as inconsistent with what we believed was physically achievable at this cost point. In plain terms, BYD is making more batteries cheaper, faster than Toyota's own internal model said was even possible. The benchmark was wrong. The gap is bigger than Toyota's own projections showed. That's what Koji Sato actually saw. Not a rival slightly ahead on the same track, a rival running an entirely different race on a track Toyota didn't even know fully existed. If this fight between patents on paper and cells already rolling off production lines is hitting different for you, drop a like and tell me who you'd bet on, Toyota's engineering depth or the speed CATL and BYD are already moving at. Here's where Toyota's survival plan either becomes legendary or turns into a cautionary tale, and honestly, the ending isn't written yet. Toyota is restructuring its entire internal development process around what it calls software-defined vehicle architecture. In a gas car, the hardware is the actual product. The engine, the transmission, the chassis, that's what you're selling. Software just manages those systems in the background. In an electric car, the hardware becomes more like a platform, and the software becomes the actual product. The driving feel, energy management, the interface, the over-the-air updates that change how your car behaves 3 years after you bought it, that's where the real value lives now. And this is exactly where Toyota, despite completely dominating manufacturing, is genuinely behind. Not because its engineers can't code, but because the entire organizational culture was built to optimize hardware for 70 years straight. Shifting that culture inside a company with 370,000 employees tied to a network of 40,000 suppliers in a country where corporate identity and personal loyalty run incredibly deep, that's not a strategy memo, that's basically a civilizational project. Sato clearly understands this, which is exactly why that statement to the board wasn't a plan, it was a warning shot. Companies that actually survive these kinds of technological shifts are rarely the ones holding the best technology the moment disruption hits. They're the ones who correctly figured out what kind of organization they had to become and were actually willing to pay the price of becoming it. Toyota has the resources, the engineering talent, the deepest patent library in the industry, and the manufacturing discipline the rest of the world spent 40 years trying to copy. What it doesn't have yet, and what literally nobody outside Toyota knows if it can build in time, is the organizational identity of an electric company. The factories are running, the research is funded, the timeline is locked in. Whether the culture can change as fast as the market is demanding, that's the actual question that decides if Koji Sato's warning becomes a turning point or an epitaph. And right now, in plants in Toyota City and battery labs in Nagoya, that answer is getting built one decision at a time. So what do you think? Can Toyota actually pull this off? Tell me down in the comments. I'm reading every single one.